Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and I actually don't have Andy with me today. I know, right? You guys were going to be like, oh, I know Andy's with... No, he's not. He's not. I gave him the week off. It's nothing crazy, you know. Sometimes people need a break. And so I gave Andy this week off. I think of it as a Father's Day present, Andy, you know, because you're a father. I mean, so am I, but, you know, I hate holidays. So in true spirit of hating holidays, I have to ignore the ones that even cater to me, right? That's just how it is. It's just how it is. But nevertheless, guys, I have an amazing episode for you guys. I am extremely passionate about one of my new favorite cases, and it has an amazing true crime docu-movie docu-movie though is what I would call it. A documentary / movie, but I would say 80% movie, 20% documentary. It's amazing. And that doesn't mean 80% of it is made up. No, it's extremely factual. There's a link to that below, description of the episode, and I will talk about that documentary quite a bit today. But before we get into that, guys, I got to remind you, you can check out these episodes early and ad-free on Patreon, patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Well, usually you can, but this episode was an exception. It went out a little late. It doesn't matter, but usually you can catch the episodes early on Patreon. Okay, that's what I'm getting at. Patreon.com/truecrimeguys. There's a link right below the description of this episode. Also, here on the free platform, you can check out our other shows like Strange Unexplained, Sandu Stories, and also Cryptic Soup with Thina and Kylie. Even though Cryptic Soup have stopped making episodes, there is still a huge back catalog for you guys to listen to, and a lot of those episodes we may revisit on True Crime Guys. So make sure you give us a follow at True Crime Guys on social media, wherever you are at True Crime Guys. And we'll keep you up to date on all the crazy stuff that's going on in the true crime world, as well as every episode that we release. All right? So today, as I said, I'm extremely excited. You guys know I love a good heist. I do. I also love a bad heist, which is what happens today. 4 students hatched a plan to steal some very rare books, and it became known as the Transylvania University heist in 2004, or better known as the Transy Book Heist. It kind of sounds kind of racy nowadays, right? But the plan was to break into the school's special collection in the rare books room, swipe the books, then sell them for millions of dollars. Easy peasy. But of course, things didn't go quite so Ocean's 11. If you catch my vibe. But it did, as I said before, inspire its own docu-movie, which was damn good, I must say. It's called American Animals, and it came out in 2018. I guess it's technically labeled a docudrama, but it's a heist film written and directed by Bart Layton, and he did an amazing job, in my opinion. It stars Evan Peters, his creepy ass, Barry Keoghan, Blake Jenner, Jared Abramson, and Ann Dowd. And it is an actual account of the Transylvania University book heist. The film brilliantly, in my opinion, cuts between interview segments of real-life people and actors that are playing out those events. And it's really cool. It's like some of the reenactments, right? Different people involved in the case explain it differently, so the movie just shows you both. And it's freaking brilliant. And it's just little minute details, right? They're not exactly important to the case. It's just like maybe this took place here in one person's mind and maybe it took place here in someone else's. And so the movie kind of jumps back and forth and shows you. And it's really cool from an artistic standpoint, from every standpoint. The documentary is fantastic, guys. It's definitely worth a watch. It's about 2 hours. I think it's an hour and 50-something minutes, but man, it flies by. It's very well done. Like I said, it stars Evan Peters as Warren Lipka, Barry Keoghan as Spencer Reinhard, Jared Abramson as Eric Borsuk, and Blake Jenner as Chaz Allen, who ends up being the driver. So you got Warren, the mastermind, Spencer, the best friend, Eric, the help, and Chaz, the driver. So now that you know the whole crew, let's get into it, shall we? Roll it. The year is 2004. Spencer Reinhard was a freshman student on an arts scholarship at Transylvania University. when he attended his first tour, including the library and, of course, the special rare books room there. He learned about the multi-million-dollar collection of rare books, including 4 double-sized folios of John James Audubon's Birds of America, containing illustrations by the famed naturalist and painter. The school had sold a similar set of Audubon's work for $12 million just a few years earlier. But since age 8, Spencer had been best friends with Warren Lipka, both hailing from South Lexington, Kentucky. Warren was on an athletics scholarship at the University of Kentucky, but he had lately become involved in selling fake IDs to students, along with another University of Kentucky student named Eric Borsuk. So around this time, Eric and Warren also had a falling out. Something about $2,000 disappearing that apparently belonged to Eric, and the two stopped talking to each other. Warren had also recently dropped out of college and reconnected with his friend Spencer. Spencer told Warren about the valuable books in the rare book room that he had seen, and that was really all Warren needed. His purpose and way out of this life had seemingly just fallen right into his lap. The library at Transylvania University happened to be the beneficiary of numerous book collectors. Clara Peck, a wealthy New York sportswoman, donated her own personal collection to the school, including the original folios of The Birds of America by John James Audubon, and a first edition of On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin. The books in the rare book room of Transylvania University were valued at more than $5.7 million. Now, the Audubons in particular are quite large books. That's not really what makes them valuable, right? It's obviously the rarity and the authenticity and the fact that they're done by John James himself, right? But these books are massive, okay? There's 4 of them, and they are 39.5 inches tall by 28.5 inches wide. These books are massive. Each one weighs 40 to 50 pounds. So they're thinking about this, right? They're actually considering stealing these giant books from this secure library from their own university. So they're like, what the hell? Let's say, what if? How would we start? So just partly for shits and giggles, let's act like we're going to do this. At least I think that was Spencer's take. I think Warren was all in from the beginning. He was all in. But Spencer, he's like, yeah, hypothetically, this could be fun. Let's talk about a heist. So Spencer started watching the security at the library, and they found that the only security, at least during the day, was a single librarian with a door key and a visitor's book that you had to sign in and out of. Her name was Betty Jean Gooch. She was a 50-plus-year-old single librarian who oversaw the rare books collection. She had started working at the university just 10 years earlier in 1994. The two realized, even with the low security, though, they'd probably still need more help to pull this off. So Warren decided to hit up his old buddy, Eric, and try to rekindle their relationship and maybe kind of coax Eric into the gang. You know what I mean? And unfortunately for Eric, it worked. Because Eric, even, this is from his own testimony, he was a bit of a loner, and he really appreciated Warren's friendship. He did. He didn't have a lot of friends, and I think he kind of missed having Warren in his life. The 3 men spent the better part of a year sketching out heist plans. They ultimately decided they'd need a 4th person, so they recruited the next member, Charles Chaz Allen II. Now, Chaz was another high school friend, okay, whose father was a prominent real estate investor in Lexington, and Chaz happened to be a business major at the University of Kentucky at the time. He says he was initially against the whole idea, but the allure of millions of dollars drew him in. Imagine that. A man raised around money. And Chaz was they needed Chaz to be a driver mainly because he had the money to obtain a vehicle, whether it be for a rental or just a getaway car or whatever it was. Right? Chaz was very wealthy for his age because, well, for one, he came from a wealthy background, but he was also very finance focused. Let's put it that way. So yeah, the idea of making millions in one day, I think that was enough to get Chaz on board. And all of them have done numerous interviews about why they all went through it. There's tons on, you can check them out on YouTube. There's tons. And, some explanations stay consistent, some change throughout the interviews. Take it for what you will. But Eric and Chaz said it was daring and ill-advised to do a heist in broad daylight, but they still were inspired by greed. And all four men were also drawn to the idea of the heist as a way of kind of pushing back and rebelling against the wealthy suburban lifestyle in which they were raised. But for whatever their reasons, they were certainly committed. The plan took several months to hash out. The group was researching rare books. They were going to auction houses. They were setting up Swiss bank accounts. They were watching heist movies, whatever they could to prepare for this heist. So the first thing they needed was a target, a clear target, a clear objective. What were we going in for? So they decided on several valuable books, including Audubon's folios, valued at $4.8 million, 3 additional works by Audubon, valued at $285,000, an early version of the 15th century Latin encyclopedia Hortus Sanitatis, valued at $450,000, a rare 1425 handwritten religious devotional calendar valued at $200,000, and an 1859 first edition of Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, valued at $25,000. But once in possession of the books, how are they going to sell them? They needed a fence. So Warren contacted a former criminal partner from his fake ID days who told him to contact someone in New York City. Warren met with the contact near Central Park in New York, who told them that they would need to meet with some black market book buyers in Amsterdam. The contact gave him an email address and told him to use the name Terry in all communications. Now, this part of the story, it gets a little blurry, right? Because only one testimony is viable here, and it's Warren's. Because Lauren says that he met with someone in Amsterdam, and the buyers told him that the books would need to be appraised by a major auction house before any eventual sale. Thus, the creation of Walter Beckman, his alias. Okay, now I say Warren says this because he is the only one that went on this trip. Spencer was supposed to go with Warren, but he backed out at the last minute, and Warren says he went anyway. Now, to ask the other 3 guys, they're kind of unsure whether or not Warren even went to Amsterdam, whether or not he even met with any of these guys or any of this, or if this was all just made up so they would carry through with the plan. We have no idea. We have no idea. So, Beckman, the new alias that Warren is using, had his own email address, of course. And this email address is what Warren used to contact Christie's Auction House of New York. Warren's plan was to get the stolen books evaluated at Christie's. Also, Warren emailed the librarian to set up an appointment for December 16th of 2004 to see the rare book room using that same fake name. And of course, like I just said, the same email. So, leading up to the day of the 16th, Eric and Chaz had staked out the library, counting how many people entered and exited the building at different times, and monitoring campus security mostly. They thought that it would help them figure out the best time to strike. They also went into the library to double-check things like twisting doorknobs to see what doors were and weren't locked. They were testing fire alarms to see what would be triggered by certain doors. I mean, obviously, I don't think they were going around hitting doors, but I think they were just looking and seeing what doors were tied to fire alarms and whatnot. Now, the plan the day of was originally to use disguises. The men, they actually did this. They wore gray wigs. They put like glue on their face to make their face look more wrinkly and to make them look older. They had fake beards. They were just trying to look old so they wouldn't be recognized. But also, in their words, they said the closest thing to being invisible is being old. And that was kind of like a dagger in the heart, right? Oof, the truth in that statement just made me cringe a little bit. But anyways, on the day of the 16th, the plan had some hiccups. For one, their planned getaway vehicle wasn't available. The stun guns, or tasers, that Warren ordered hadn't arrived yet. The library was more crowded than they expected, and their disguises as old men kind of drew more attention than they assumed, really. I mean, they really did. It was kind of obvious they weren't old men. It kind of looked like, what's that movie with Johnny Knoxville, Bad Grandpa? It looked kind of like that. Yeah. Not to mention there were 4 women, presumably librarians, in the rare books room having a meeting that day. So it's pretty much off, right? They already knew that there was one librarian in there, and she may need to be subdued. That's what the taser was for. But 4? No way. Too risky, right? So they call it off. But Warren was not deterred, so he contacted the librarian again, apologizing for missing the appointment due to a business trip, of course, or a family emergency. I think he says a business trip on the phone, and then he says a family emergency in person. It's kind of weird. But anywho, he reschedules it for 11 a.m. on December 17th. Now, this time, they weren't doing the disguises. Instead, they were like, let's just go as ourselves. Let's just dress nice, not draw a lot of attention. So on December 17th in the morning, Spencer watched from a neighboring building. With a stolen mobile phone, he was communicating with Warren. Meanwhile, Chaz was waiting with a getaway vehicle. Warren went inside and signed the visitor's log as Beckman, just as planned. After that, he and the librarian Gooch went into the rare book room. At this point, Warren said he had to call his friend John to accompany him. So Warren called John, aka Eric, obviously, and invited him into the library. So now Gooch is there, Warren's there, and Eric, all in the rare book room. It's just those 3, right? So they're all walking around. They're looking at different books. She's pointing out to them different books and stating different facts about them. And, if you'd like to touch them, let me know. And then all of a sudden, boom, Eric sneaks up behind her, hits her with a taser. But it doesn't subdue her the way that they think. So Warren then pulled a wool hat over her head and pulled her to the ground and bound her with zip ties and gagged her with duct tape. She noticed that the attacker, for some reason, was calling her BJ instead of Better, which was a nickname, or Gooch was also a nickname of hers. But yes, this scene in the documentary, in the movie, is one of the hardest scenes to watch. It really is. It is. I don't know why. It's like they don't hurt her, right? They do assault her physically, right? I mean, that's exactly what you hit someone with a taser, you're tying them up, you are. But I mean, they don't sexually assault her. They don't strike her. But the scene is just it's so difficult to watch. The actors, they did an amazing job. Like I said, this is not a low budget documentary, guys. Like, this is not some low budget reenactment. This is high quality, and they did not skimp on that scene either. Like, it felt like it lasted an eternity. So good. I'm like, so good, but so uncomfortable at the same time. But as this was happening to her, she also saw the young men putting the Audubon books in bed sheets and book bags, she later told police. So now, Warren and Eric had a couple books in their book bags, right? And then they had 2 of the Audubon series, but they were heavy. Like I said before, they're talking 50 pounds a piece. So they have 2 of them, so they're carrying 100 pounds together, dead weight, of these giant 2 foot by 3 foot pieces. And they're trying to get out, right? So on their way out, they encountered an assistant librarian because they originally wanted to go out the basement, but when they went down there, it was pitch black and they could not see, and they could not carry the books through all the crap that was down there, whatnot. They couldn't tell that there was an exit. It didn't seem like there was even anywhere to get out. So they go back up to floor 1 and literally try to carry the books by everyone down the stairwell. And it is just, oh man, it is a awkward scene. But on their way, they encountered an assistant librarian. She chased them and was screaming at them as they were running down the stairwell. They end up dropping the 2 Autobahn works, realizing that their escape route was not going to work, especially not carrying these books. So they drop those, they leave them, but they do have the 2 lower valuable books, including the Darwin, okay? And for all intents and purposes, they got away in the van. But the assistant librarian spotted them as they all jumped in and told the police that there were 4 thieves. She saw them right after Spencer got in the van, because the entire time, Spencer wasn't even tied to them. He was like off at another building, but I guess at some point in time, when Warren and Eric are coming out of the library, I guess he gets in the van with Chaz and he's already in there. So when Warren and Eric get in the van as well, the librarian that chased them out, the second one, she sees all 4 of them escaping in the van. And so that is what the police are told. So at least they didn't make it out empty-handed, right? They still had the Darwin book and another book. But when they told their buyer in Amsterdam about this, they backed out of the deal. They said, if you don't have the Autobahn folios, we don't want it. So now they're missing out on millions of dollars, the guys are. They're stressed, and realistically, they still had to unload the books that they stole, or else it would come back and point to them, and this would all be for nothing, right? The books they had were estimated to be worth several hundred thousands of dollars, and they wanted to get them appraised without arousing any suspicions. And this is the part they should have done a little more studying, a little more research, because a lot of mistakes were made starting here. So first, when Warren contacted the appraiser, he used the same Walter Beckman email address that he used to set up appointments with Gooch at the library, allowing police to quickly connect the thieves to the auction house, right? And then when they went to meet at the New York offices of Christie's, the appraiser, Warren introduced himself as Mr. Williams and Spencer as Mr. Stevens. Melanie Holleran was working that day, and she apologized that Thomas Leckie, who they had an appointment with, wasn't available because of an upcoming public auction, but that she could deal with them for today, and then when Leckie comes back in the office, he can appraise the works and call them back. The men claimed to be sole representatives of Walter Beckman, who was a reclusive book collector from Boston. Now, when she asked them about the provenance or origin of the books, she started taking notes. After a half an hour, the meeting ended, and Holleran said that she would discuss the best approach with her bosses. Upset that they didn't have immediate answers, Warren and Spencer left a phone number for her to use. Mistake number 2, because they left Spencer's personal cell phone number. Meanwhile, Yahoo Internet Services provided law enforcement with all the information they had on Mr. Walter Beckman and his email account associated with him. The FBI interviewed Melanie Holleran as well, and they got the phone number that Spencer gave her. Police quickly tracked down the phone to its registration under a Gary Reinhard of Lexington, Kentucky. Imagine that. That's the father of Spencer. The voicemail had a recording. It said, "This is Spence. Leave a message." They quickly made the connection as well that Spencer was a Transylvania University student, and then they reviewed security camera footage of Spencer and Warren entering Christie's. Pat Murray, a retired Lexington Police Department detective, showed the video footage to his son, who was the same age as the suspects, and he identified Warren Lipka from going to high school with them. Man, it makes these guys look really dumb, right? It's just the way it all falls into place. This led law enforcement to the social media account of Warren and Spencer, and the same 2 men who were recently seen at Christie's on camera were right there on their Facebook pages, and now they had all the evidence they needed. So the authorities followed them on February 11th, 2005. Spencer's dorm room was raided, as well as the Lexington home where Warren, Eric, and Chaz all lived. Police found the stolen books undamaged by the 4 men in a duffel bag. And due to the overwhelming evidence, they all confessed. In April of 2005, Warren Lipka, Spencer Reinhard, Eric Borsuk, and Chaz Allen all pled guilty to 6 federal charges, including conspiracy to commit robbery, aiding and abetting the theft of objects of cultural heritage. That's a tough one. Aiding and abetting transportation of stolen goods. Theft of cultural artifacts from a museum. Interstate transportation of federal property. And in December of 2005, a year after the heist, a judge ruled that they were all equally culpable. I agree. The judge said that the value of the theft should be of the books actually removed from the building, not the intended amount. Whew, they're lucky on that one, right? The court also ruled that the stun gun used was a dangerous weapon against Betty Jean Gooch, who suffered psychological trauma as a result of the raid, though she did say that she forgave the men. They were each sentenced to 7 years without parole and released in 2012. Eric said that the first 2 years of being incarcerated was the easiest. The boys attended classes, and it was a lot like college. This was until they started doing interviews, specifically the Vanity Fair issue. The prosecutor was pretty upset by this. He didn't like the boys essentially getting notoriety for their illegal activity, right, for this theft. Because of this, they were actually thrown in solitary confinement for the remainder of their term, and that's when they just started focusing on themselves. A lot of them started writing. They started, of course, Spencer was an artist, so he started doing more paintings. And after their release from federal prison, they spent 1 year in a halfway house or on probation, I guess, whichever they chose. And where are they all now, right? Well, Betty Jean Gooch, she retired in 2020. What a year to retire, right? I felt like retiring in 2020 myself. Mrs. Betty Jean. Spencer Reinhardt is an artist now. Last known, he's still living in Lexington, Kentucky. He painted the movie poster for American Animals, and his art specializes in paintings of birds, similar to the exact artwork that they stole years before, ironically. Warren Lipka graduated from Temple University in 2018 with a master's degree in film studies. His LinkedIn bio describes him as a writer, a storyteller, and a prison reform advocate. Chaz Allen describes himself as an author, a screenwriter, and transformation coach. He has multiple autobiographical books about his role in the heist, his time in prison, as well as workout regimes in prison. Most recently, he was known to be living in LA as a fitness instructor. Eric Borsuk, also an author. Eric serves on the board of directors of Die Jim Crow, the first nonprofit record label in the United States for currently and formerly incarcerated musicians. He has also written for the Marshall Project and is working on his next book, a prison memoir, as well as writing the 2018 book American Animals, a true crime memoir, in 2020. Side note, during filming of American Animals, the actors were actually not allowed to meet their real-life counterparts because the director feared that they would sympathize and or play them in a different light. Not how they should have been. Isn't that interesting? I found that very interesting because when I watched the movie, I watched the documentary, and I saw the interviews with the actual guys, I sympathized with them a lot. I really did. I thought, I don't know. I thought, man, this could have been me. I put in the right situation. I don't know. It just, when you're 19, you're 20 years old, you feel like your life's not going anywhere. You're bored. You've seen everything. It's 2004. The internet's already been out for a while. You're bored of it already. I don't know. It just, I guess I understand it, and I think they were all reformed nicely. They all made a mistake. They didn't, even the librarian, man, that's the toughest part about it. That's the toughest part about this whole case. The fact that they had to restrain her, it's just, like I said, in the documentary, it is a awkward scene. It's extremely awkward, but it is extremely real. Extremely real. Much like everything we talk about here. It's true crime. What are you going to do other than get some true crime pine and roll with the punches with some Oh My Gaia? Oh My Gaia is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while still maintaining effectiveness. And at Oh My Gaia, there's tons of scents to choose from, like True Crime Pine, since you're a true crime fan. You could start there at ohmygaia.com, ohmygaia.com. There's also vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside, bergamot, amber, pear, sweet pea, sailor, barbershop, and so much more. Again, at ohmygaia.com. That's ohmygaia.com. And you can use code word Crimepine for 15% off your order because you're True Crime Guys listeners. Can you believe that? Crimepine, no spaces. Crimepine, no freaking space. Okay? There's a word right below the description of this episode for 15% off. Again, ohmygaia.com, ohmygaia.com. You won't regret it, guys. Also, you won't regret Patreon, because you won't have to listen to ads, except for Oh My Gaia, because those ads are amazing. Patreon.com/True Crime Guys, where you can hear all of these episodes early, most of them early, ad-free always, and with some bonus content most of the time. Okay? So what more can you complain about? Plus, you get access to all of our back catalog here. Tons of other shows, all of the Sandu stories, all of the 5-minute murders with Lauren, all of the strange shorts, all of the, oh my God, just the banters. The episodes, guys. Audio files for days. I'm telling you. Patreon.com/True Crime Guys. Just $3 a month. Get access to so much. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling people. Thank you for giving us a follow on social media, giving us a rating, whatever it is you do. Tell somebody about True Crime Guys. We appreciate it very much. And also, thank you for supporting our sponsors, the people that support us. It means very much to us. All right? Well, guys, next week, hopefully Andy will be back here, so it's not just me jacking my jaws for an hour. But yeah, I guess we'll see you then. Until then, just keep on creeping. Bye.